What's up? My name's Kamal, and today I just wanted to make a video for all my Porsche people out there. I'm replacing the front lower control arms on our 2004 Porsche Cayenne S, so the 955 body style. I already replaced the passenger side, and I just got the driver's side one off. It's actually not that difficult, so I was just gonna make a quick video explaining what you'll need and what to expect and some tricks along the way. So these are both the old ones actually. You know, you've got bushings there, and then you got the front one and then the back one. This is the one that usually starts deteriorating or tearing first. But anyways, the first thing I wanted to talk about is before you even get your Cayenne on jack stands, you should just take a measurement with a tape measure from the center of the wheel. So you just would like measure from the center up to just like the fender right here. Write that measurement down, because when you tighten all of the bolts back down on the control arm, you know, when you lift the car up, the suspension like sags down. So if you tightened all this stuff with it sagging, when you lowered it back down, it would be like twisting the new bushings and they'll wear a lot sooner. So you take that measurement first, and then when you're actually about to tighten everything down, I used my jack and I put it right here on the arm, jacked it up, and then you're able to tighten down, like I was saying, the three areas where you have the bushings, which is this bolt right here, this one up in here, and the back one right here. So as you can see, it's not that difficult. You don't have to take down like the underbody panel, or I even didn't undo like the sway bar end links. I was just able to remove all the bolts. So I broke this one loose first, then I removed this one, and then I removed the inner ones. I actually kept this bolt in here because the one thing is, when you're trying to get this ball joint out, when you take this nut off, this isn't just gonna like come out on its own. And that kind of leads me to the one tool that you're going to want to need, which is an air hammer. So yeah, the only thing is, I guess for most air hammers, you're also going to need like a air compressor and a air hose. I guess you could try just like hammering on this thing a good bit to get it to pop loose. But yeah, I don't really know if you'd be successful, and I don't want people being kind of like stuck. So yeah, my recommendation is to, if you have an air hammer, this makes this job go with the breeze, basically. Yeah, I just used like the needle point one and put the needle part right in here. I actually leave the old bolt on and bring it down here, so that when you put the air hammer in there, it you know, won't move around on you. It literally, once I started air hammering it, it came out within like 3 seconds. So it's that's what I'm saying. It might be possible to hammer it out by hand, but it's gonna be kind of tricky. So yeah, this side you can see, I just have the other one out right now. So the other kind of tricky part is when you're taking the bolt out of the rear one, you have your tie rod boot right here. The thing is most of the time it's gonna be with the larger part of the eccentric bolt facing up. So just a little trick is, like, when this is in there, it's in there all the way, it's most likely gonna be like that facing up, and that's gonna prevent you from being able to get it out because it's gonna hit the boot. So just turn it around with your wrench so that the larger part of the eccentric bolt is facing down, and then you should be able to bring that one out. No problem. And yeah, basically here's all the tools I used. So yeah, everything is basically a 21 millimeter. You know, I did use a 22 because the bolt that holds on the ball joint on the new ones that I got, that new nut right there, was a 22 instead of a 21. It just depends on which aftermarket arms you get. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was, see, I have this hex, which basically, when you're putting the nut back onto the new ball joint, when you're tightening the nut down, the whole thing will actually start spinning, which will actually, kind of like I was talking about with these bushings, having this jacked up and measured to the same height so that they're not, you know, twisted when you let it back down. It's the same thing with this one. When you start tightening this whole thing will start spinning, and you'll see this boot start spinning that way. But it's like clamped at the top, so it's the same thing. It'll kind of be like twisting the boot. So you can use, I use the hex, which, depending on which one you have, it might also be like a torque screw. Yeah, so I just kind of held this in place with a torque screw, and then just used an open end wrench. Tighten this down while holding this in place so that this the rubber part on the ball joint isn't twisting while you're tightening that down. So the tightening torque for the nut that goes on to the ball joint, that's going to be 105 Newton meters or 77 or 78 foot-pounds. The nut and bolt that attaches the strut fork to the middle of the lower control arm, you're going to tighten that to 85 Newton meters or 63 foot-pounds. And then the bolts that hold the inner part of the lower control arm in, that have the eccentric bolt parts on them, those are going to be tightened to 170 Newton meters or 126 foot-pounds. And then the other thing, as you can see on this nut eccentric part and the actual subframe, is if you mark all of this, then you can just position it back in the same place that it was, because it's going to affect the alignment, obviously, and that's one of the things is you should get this aligned after replacing these, because even though you might get those eccentric bolts in the same exact spot by marking it, as you can see here, the arms might just be that little bit different in size. I don't know. I'm gonna take it to go get aligned. I mean, I guess you can drive it and see how you feel about it, but to have it done properly, I think you should get it aligned after this job. And the other thing about marking those bolts is that my torque wrench, I did torque the nut to the ball joint and the nut holding the strut fork on the control arm, but those ones that actually hold the inner part with the eccentric bolt on them, I couldn't actually fit the whole socket and torque wrench up there. So yeah, I just tightened them down with the wrenches I have. So having it marked like it is, it makes it so you don't really need to worry about the tightening torque. You can just put them back to where that mark is, and that makes it a lot easier. So yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, I think I covered everything you need to know. Just remember to take that measurement before jacking up your Cayenne. Just put the jack at that part of the control arm like I showed you guys. So before I did that, I tightened the ball joint nut down, and then I just had everything screwed in, but not tightened while I jacked it up, and then I just snugged everything down. I was able to torque the strut one like I was saying, and then the others I just did by hand, taking them back to that marking like I showed you guys. So then taking the arm out, the most difficult part in my opinion was the part where the ball joint goes in there, because your axle's right there, so you kind of have to like for this side, I kind of twisted it that way, because obviously this part on the ball joint, it does move all around obviously for the movement of the suspension, but yeah, I kind of twisted it to the back to get it out, and then the same way to go in. That was also a little tricky, so if it's fighting you, don't worry, you can get it. It's just a little bit difficult. And then yeah, just having that air hammer to get that out, it made it just a lot easier than trying to do it by hand with a hammer, because when you have it jacked up on jack stands like this, you don't even really have that much room to smack it with a hammer. So yeah. So yeah, I know this was a lot of information, a lot of talking, but I hoped it gave anybody all the information they needed that was considering tackling this job on their own. So thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a lot. And yeah, appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Peace.